My name is Mal Fleming. I am here to assist in your passage. Can you remember your name and the circumstances of your death?
Mal, pleasure to make your acquaintance. Burt Nagra, natural causes. Well, I drifted off listening to an old tape of mine, something I'd done quite a few times before, except this time I didn't wake up.
What were you listening to?
Bluegrass music from a recording trip I did a few hours outside of Knoxville, near where I grew up. I'd been trying to track down this one banjo player. He finally agreed to let me come by with the rig. Anyway, it was him and a couple other fellows, all old-timers, but they really knew how to play. And they gave me a tremendous amount of shit for how long I took setting up the mics. Yeah, I can still smell the wood stove and the tobacco from his house. And then towards the beginning of the recording, you could hear the old boy's dog barking in the background. So he quieted down once the music started. Probably the best version of Foggy Mountain Breakdown I ever heard. And I saw Flat and Scruggs live. You a fan of folk music, Mal?
I like some, I guess you could call them contemporary singer-songwriters, but I think that's a little bit different from the type of folk music you recorded.
Well, I wouldn't know. I'm a bit out of touch with what's popular these days, and the jukebox at the bar that's not called Spirits leaves a lot to be desired. Of course, you had Tommy Doyle singing his drinking songs back when he was around, but I'd already recorded a number of those when I did my Irish-American songbook. I was hoping when I got here there'd be more songs to hear from the other residents, but they mostly want to talk, not sing.
Have you met Bridget? I tried to get her to sing some of her mother's lullabies, but she didn't want to.
I did, briefly. Nice girl. I'd love to hear her sing, but she's always too tied up with the widow. And then, of course, I wouldn't be able to record it between not having my gear and the obvious part, which is a damn shame. Then, of course, we had Joey with his ruckus going all night. I never got into disco personally, but I understand why people like it. Dancing, it's a universal human need. You know, the earliest cave paintings we have on record are of dancing.
I think I did hear that somewhere.
Borneo, Indonesia. I was there on a research trip some odd years ago recording gamelan ensembles, and I actually got to see it for myself. The art, it's something to behold. But I'd love to hear what song they were dancing to, how different it might have sounded to what I was hearing, or how similar. We'll never know. It's a real shame to think about what we're not recording now that won't be around in 50 or 100 years. Drives me crazy sitting here thinking about it.
Yeah, I completely get you. Back when I was doing oral history in grad school, I loved the work, but I'd be up all night thinking about what voices we weren't able to capture, what stories, histories that would just never be remembered.
Yeah, that's why I spent so much time on the road.
Yeah, I'd really love to hear more about your field recording work. Were there any trips that were particularly memorable?
Oh, hard to pick one. But the time I spent in Spain really stands out. I knew a little Spanish from growing up in the South. Getting the dialects was a whole other challenge. Anyway, I was there for a few months, spent some time in the country. There was this one night, I was in a little fishing village in the Basque country, Pasai Donibane. Rained every day I was there. And then this one evening, the sky was clear as the fishermen came to port with their catch. They were all singing on their boats as the sun broke through the clouds. Let me tell you something. Handel's Messiah had nothing on what those boys were singing. They were so in tune and so in sync, even hauling ropes and nets. I'd never heard anything like it.
That's lovely. Is it recorded anywhere I could hear it?
You can hear it on my Songs of the Basque Country compilation. Just one of the records that came out of that trip. Check a record store, maybe the library at CUNY.
Oh, it's on streaming. I researched some of your work earlier. I hope that's okay.
Sheesh. I had a feeling the distribution thing would get easier, but I didn't realize it'd be that easy. Crazy. Can that thing record, too?
It can. I was actually recording some Crow Song earlier, if you'd like to hear.
Sure. Huh. Now, that's really something. I had a colleague at CUNY who specialized in recording birds, Susan Quinn. We used to compare field notes from our trips, talk about what collecting folk songs and collecting bird songs had in common.
What did they have in common?
Quite a bit, as it turns out. Every culture has their own folk songs, just like anywhere with birds has bird song, but the more you travel and hear, the more those little differences become apparent. I'll start you with an easy one. Roosters. North American and Asiatic roosters have totally different calls, but they're both still waking you up at 5 a.m. wherever you are. Still doing the same job, just a different uniform. And folk songs are kind of the same way. They all serve the same purpose: celebration, mourning, getting through the workday. And of course, there are local legends and stories and mythologies that are distinct to every place. I was most interested in trying to capture that, show how special every culture's folklore is while also showing its universal purpose, just like dancing. But also because folklore, the songs, it's all so fragile and so close to vanishing if it's not preserved in some way. You'd be surprised at how quickly culture can disappear like that. Maybe you've already seen it happen.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the internet?
A little bit. I had some grad students helping me build a .com for my work when I was retiring.
So there are a lot of websites from even just 15, 20 years ago that have just all vanished. They're not around at all anymore. And some of them used to be really popular. They'd be something everyone talked about, the way people talk about TV shows or magazine articles.
So you have experienced it, seeing once familiar culture disappear?
I mean, I don't know if an obscure college radio blog is worthy of the same preservation as an ancient folk song, though.
You never know what you'll wish you had preserved. That's why it's good you're recording this. Why is that, if you don't mind my asking? I don't mind being on tape. I'm just curious.
It's part of the job. Apparently it assists with the transition.
Well, I'm glad you're doing it either way. I'm a bit envious, to be honest, though it is a nice change being on the other side of the mic for once.
I can imagine. You mentioned growing up in the South, Tennessee, right? Was that when you got interested in folk songs?
Yep. My dad was an engineer, worked for the TVA for 40 years. That was after they eminent domained the family property, of course, but you can't beat 'em, join 'em, right? Anyway, he was a part-time tinkerer outside of work, always had a project going, ham radio and the like. He managed to get his hands on an early Edison recorder through a work connection. The thing weighed half a ton. I had to help him haul it around. And we had a family that worked the coal mines growing up. Always heard stories from that time. That's where he got interested in the songs. My first project was helping my dad compile some of them. First it was just a book, but he eventually managed to get some of them on wax, too. That was where I caught the bug, so to speak.
Sounds like your dad was a big influence on your work.
Oh, he was. He mainly focused on recording locally, but I think he would have wanted to travel more if he could. Working and supporting the family made it tough for him, so I had to carry the torch.
And there was a personal connection to your first recordings with the coal miners?
My grandfather and great-uncle, they both worked the mines. Didn't like to talk about it because of the coal wars and the unions and the like. Knew a lot of people that ended up hurt or killed or in jail. Weren't exactly positive associations. Then there's the whole matter of losing your livelihood when the company decides to just up and leave. But that sourness they had towards it made it feel all the more important to document the songs. There was this one instrumental number for banjo called Coal Creek Treaty. Some of these tunes, they sounded pretty upbeat, but they were about dark stuff. A lot of bluegrass is that way. The happy songs sound sad, and the sad songs sound happy. This one was like that. The banjo has this real lightness to it. But I think it was the rawness of the recording we did that really allowed us to capture the sadness. You could feel the force of the playing. He was playing clawhammer, that percussive technique, calloused fingers on the strings, not plucking, but striking. rocking chair creaking on the front porch. A song about a man's busted back from working in the tunnels feels different when you can hear the back brace rubbing against the wicker, you know. It wouldn't have been the same if we'd recorded it in a studio with fancier equipment. We had to get it there, in its element. It's the only way to capture what the song's really about. And nobody would have heard or remembered it if we hadn't got it. Not even the people that sang it. I'm telling you, this stuff, it's like a mist in the air. It's there, and then, poof, it's gone.
I definitely hear that. I don't go out to see live music much, but when I have, it's always been the smaller, more intimate performances that have stuck with me.
Well, sure. You said you were a fan of singer-songwriters. One person with an instrument telling their story is always going to be more meaningful in a bar, a coffee shop, as opposed to a stadium. Any particular favorites?
I really like this one artist, Basia Badalamenti. I don't really know how to talk about music, but something about her voice is just so incredible and arresting.
Badalamenti, that's a Sicilian name?
Yeah, exactly. Her earlier work blends a lot of influences from traditional Sicilian music. She's also a multi-instrumentalist. She'll switch between guitar and flute and even what looks like an accordion. Right?
Probably an organetto. It's a type of accordion, more buttons than keys.
Right, I think it was that. Anyway, I think what I found most memorable about her performance is how it felt like she was channeling something. It didn't just feel like an artist playing her songs. It felt like someone tapped into something deeper, you know, the type of music that only comes from years of practice and really knowing your craft.
I'd love to hear some if you could.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Beautiful. I can see why it resonated with you. I can only imagine how it'd be live.
I'm glad you like it.
It's been forever since I've heard anything new around here, so I tell you, it's like a breath of fresh air. Just wish I could hear it in the room where it happened.
I'm impressed that you're still eager to hear new things after all these years and all the work you've done. Most people, they seem to stop looking for new music after they hit a certain age.
And it's a damn shame. Well, it's to be expected. People get set in their ways. They get busy. Not everyone's got the fever for it. Though I don't think it's entirely their fault, the way we've made the world louder and busier. When you got the same music pumped into every bar and restaurant and public space, it makes sense why people would want to break from it. And then there's the matter of how flat and samey it all is. I'm guessing Basia Badalamenti isn't the first thing you hear when you turn on the radio.
No, I don't think so. Maybe college radio.
Thank God for college radio. When my dad and I were first sending out promos, we could always count on the kids at MTSU or UT Knoxville to give it some airtime. But anyway, that was the other thing I was trying to do with my work. I was trying to document all the songs I could because of the way popular music was going. It seemed like everything wanted to become the same. People in those little villages in Spain I talked about, whenever they got radios and TV, they'd lose interest in their traditional music. They all wanted to start guitar bands. There's nothing wrong with guitar bands, but there's so much more out there that people never get a chance to hear.
I think you gave people that chance, though. It says that you've got lots of monthly listeners here.
Sure, but it's still only a fraction of what I could have done. If those damn penny-pinching congressmen and grant committees hadn't made me spend half my time writing proposals, I would have been able to do more. You know, I didn't have anything to leave my kids. Even when I was tenured at CUNY, I still had to fund most of my trips out of pocket. And that's to say nothing about the equipment or publishing costs.
That sounds incredibly frustrating. But if it's any help, I've talked to a lot of people here who feel like their work or life was in some way unfinished. And I think the volume of your work speaks for itself, even if you feel there were still things that you didn't do.
Mal, I can tell you mean it. But I also know you're trying to get me through that onyx door. It's nothing personal, but I can clock a salesman from a mile away.
But what good does staying here do if you can't physically record anything else?
That's a fair point. But I've made my peace with not being able to work. It's the loss of what I've already done that's the kicker.
Again, the music you recorded is widely available and listened to.
It's not just about the catalog being out there. I recorded every one of those songs. I talked to the people. I fought with the heads of arts councils to get an extra $500 for duplication. I remember it all. If I'm not around to advocate for the music, what good is it? Sure, some kid might find folk songs of the best country at a secondhand shop and play it for his friends while they're stoned. Okay, great. Doesn't mean they understand it or give a shit about where it came from. If I can't be there to tell people what it's really about, what good is it?
I hear that. It's frustrating how little control we have over the story of our lives once we've passed on. But one thing I've learned from studying history, from talking to the other permanent residents, it's that stories shapeshift over time. They evolve. They always do. Sometimes it's because of misinformation or lost records, but in other cases, the knowledge of the past gets richer the more we know about it, the more we see the bigger context. And we get that context because of primary sources and people who know how to look at them correctly. And I would argue that the sheer volume of work you created, all that context, even if it's not on the radio, it's promising, helpful, whatever. And people still like hearing these songs. Yeah, a stoned college kid might not pick up on the intricacies of the Basque fisherman's harmonies, but she appreciates it on some level. She enjoys it. It's still music.
That's true. It's still music at the end of the day. But you have to understand what it's like to be on my end of things and just taking your word for it. I'll say it loud and clear for your recorder. The answer is no.
Okay.
Look, Mal, I don't mean to be so pig-headed about it. I've enjoyed our chat. You should come back whenever you'd like. I'm always happy to talk music. I would recommend you get out and hear more stuff. I mean, you're still young. Eventually you won't be able to as easily, but I'm not going anywhere.
I understand. I'll come back later.
Wow, this place is a lot more ornate than it looks from the outside.
Oh, yeah, thanks for taking time out of your touring schedule for this. I know you must be busy.
Well, I was just amazed that Greybrier wanted to commission an original song. It's a fascinating prompt to work off of, chronicling the lives of the overlooked. Will the acoustics be okay in the mausoleum?
They should be, even if it's not perfect. We want to capture the atmosphere more than anything. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I'll start the recorder, but feel free to begin whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Heaven is a ghost I saw sleeping on the clouds that were gathered when the storm winds tore my wedding gown to shrouds. Heaven is a ghost, though I knew it as a friend when we danced upon the barricades between my God and man. Oh, and how she hid between the trees that were taken from the orchard where the serpent tempted Eve, where sunlight shines in colors of the sea and black and bright, and heaven's ghost, the gardener growing fruit upon the vine. Heaven is a ghost like fresh flowers on the grave of the child of bereft bandits robbing pilgrims of their pay. Heaven What she leaves behind I cannot say. When she passes on into the day, like a ripple in a pond, she flutters by me gently, and just as soon she's gone. Heaven is a ghost, like a ghost in a machine, making trouble for the night watchman with terror in his dreams. Heaven is a ghost of all I knew before I passed. Though I beckoned her to stay with me, I knew she would not last. Oh, and how she suffers my heart so when she calls me from a distance that my spirit does not know, where twilight brings a shadow through the cemetery gates, and heaven takes my heart against the feathers ghostly way. Heaven is a ghost.
How was that?
That was lovely. Thank you so much.
No problem. It's funny, I still felt like I was playing to an audience, in a sense. When will the recording be available?
Soon. We'll have it up on the website in a few weeks.
Thank you. I'll see myself out. I might walk around a little bit more before sound check later.
Now, how in the hell did you pull that off?
To be honest, I had no idea if the Greybrier would approve it. Had to call in a favor with the grounds department, but Wren owes me, and Bozia was surprisingly easy to reach. Responded to my email within a day or two.
Well, nicely done. You sure know how to play to the crowd.
I try.
Though you'd have to imagine it could backfire. What if I insisted on 10 more songs before going through the onyx door? I'm just kidding. I appreciate you, Mal. You've got real follow-through.
Thank you.
Guess I'll take a beat and get out of your hair. Don't forget to put that song up, though. And hey, maybe send it to some of the kids at Radio CUNY, if you have a sec. See if they can get it on the airwaves.
I'll do my best.
Good man. See you around.
Burt Nagra. Passage completed.
You've been listening to Conversations with Ghosts, a Dead Signals production. For complete cast and crew credits, check out our website at conversationswithghosts.com. Dead Signals is an independent operation, and we're supported by our patrons. If you like what you hear and want to support the work we do, go to patreon.com/archive81 to sign up. You'll get a bunch of fun extras, including behind-the-scenes Q&As, music, and access to the first podcast Mark and I ever made together. You can also download the original song heard in this episode, Heaven is a Ghost, written by me and performed by Ali Deneen. That's patreon.com/archive81. As always, thanks for listening.